I have made many of these kicking legs, finished them up. They're sort of all croissant shaped now. This again is the upper thigh, this is the calf, and this is the heel. This is the toe. Each kicking leg would be going this direction if the knife was being cut roughly on this axis. Let's see, the knife's being cut along this axis. So this is the direction forward, this is the shape of the cuts. So I only need about 4 of these croissants to do one cycle with the arms, or the windmilling arms, the swimming arms. And what I wanted to talk about was the water, the kicking of the water that comes up from the action. Again, this would probably be an example of the head in the water going forward. There'd be arms windmilling. Let's move these out of the way. There's arms windmilling, and there's a body, and these are the kicking strokes. All right. So here's the thing. What do we do with the water? How do we make the spray that's being kicked off? You can kind of tell from here. At least the idea is, what I'm trying to figure out is how to get 3 different kinds of this little section is like a spray of water. This is 2 sort of sheets of water, and these are actual individual splashes, and I've thrown some random blue clay in there to keep it all supported. So if you notice, it's going at a kind of let's do our kicking leg. It's our sort of slanted space capsule shape. If this is the angle of the cut, what I'm trying to figure out is the spray that comes off is actually going this way. This is the foot going down, the kick of the foot going down. This side is going down into the water now. This is the side coming up from the water. That's the side going down into the water. So this is a spray that happens after the kick goes down. So after it goes in, the spray will be cut this way, and so it is going out and away in space from the reaction, as a reaction from the kick. If you're slicing this up this direction. So I'm focused on the spray now, which is going to be blue in various sheets of water, and this is an example of how that shape would look. If I were to put it on a, you can kind of get a better view, maybe here. The knife would be cutting this way, and so this has to be built. This little arcing tube, or these arcing tubes, has to be built in a way that they'll support themselves in midair. This little tube won't support itself right now. It needs a little more backing and clay support from below, right in this area, right in here. And it can support from about right, it would be attached to this at the beginning, but as it gets to here and it's no longer attached to the kicking foot, the spray that's being kicked up and falling down back into the water level is obviously going a certain direction. One thing is I have not pre-distorted this. This is just a simple tube. If I really wanted it to be a circle, for example, I would have to pre-distort this shape, which I could do, much like I've pre-distorted other things, and this would be more like a circle that results. Since these are such small shapes, I tend not to worry about them, and I don't mind them being ovals. To be quite frank, they will be ovals if I hadn't have done that. The key here is that they're at a steeper angle away from the foot being cut, and so they're going to fly up and then fly back down. This needs to be finished in a way that's supported by other material. This is the spray being kicked up off the foot as it goes up. This is the kick as it goes down, so there's a big splash. And we'll probably want some other spray coming off of this. Let me first try to show you how I'm going to make these elements that support the kick, support the spray, the water elements. One thing will be this sort of splash tube material. It's just sort of water made out of blue, ivory, and bright white. I take these three colors, I try to not line them up too well, and then I wrap them around each other like this, and then I'll take that and roll it out in a way that let's see, no, that's something else. If I would take all three of these, I would try to roll them up in a way that doesn't mean that it's a super simple circle. That's another circle. They're all pretty much blah blah blah. So they all get very small anyway, so I'm probably worrying about tiny little details. I wanted it to be a little more random like that, but it's just water spray, so I wouldn't worry too much. The point is to extrude this down, and then there, it's a little more random, that's nice, and then extrude a little bit more, and get yourself a lot of material to make water spray out of. So that's one of three elements I'm going to make here. Okay, those three things. This is another element I'm going to make. It's a light blue, a kind of high sky light blue, a really pure happy blue, and a slightly darker blue, intertwined with some ivory. So I could take ivory clay, cut some sheets of ivory, take some light blue clay, cut some sheets of that, take some that's sky blue, take some pure blue, cut some sheets of that, and lastly take some deeper sort of turquoise blue, and then some bright white. We have sheets of that, and that's how you make the sandwich. So you can be very sloppy, because all of this is going to get very sloppy later. It's all abstract stuff. It's at the end of it, I'm trying to make water. Water is a very liquid thing, so I'm not trying to be very precise as I put these things together. All right, so that's how you make a sandwich. This is the same example of that same sandwich. What I want to do is make this little material, this sort of sheet of water spray. So I extruded it out. I'm going to move some croissants. These are, of course, leg kicks. I'm just calling them croissants because they kind of remind me of that. Actually, if you put them together like that, they kind of make a croissant, so they're sort of half croissants. Okay. I'm going to make these into little triangles. And the reason for that is you can see the kind of abstract colors that go in there. I want to wrap them sort of zigzag back on themselves. All right? I'm going to wrap this, zigzag it back on itself. And wrap this, zigzagging it back on itself. And wrap this, zigzagging it back onto itself. So this is, in a sense, a splash. These will be the splashes that come off the croissant. This is, again, the kick stroke, the kick that goes down into the water as the leg is pounding, as the legs are going back and forth for the swimmers. The last thing I wanted to add was this, which is just a simple blue and white This will be a pigs in the blanket. This is the hot dog. This is the bun. You wrap it up like anything and you extrude it out. This is what these little splashes are going to be. All right. All right. You can see they make little white dots. Okay. So these tubes, which are the more sort of abstract shapes, they're not trying to be circular like this is. This is a different kind of splash element. I'm going to put a couple of them here to support the weight, or many of them, to support the weight of the first splash, because they're like more like see how I've done 3 of them in a row like this, and here's some more splashes for later. These are kind of the liquid drops, and these are really, well, they're not really liquid drops. These are totally drops. This is blue and white, and I'm going to make a little smaller arc of blue and white. I think this is one of the most fun, here, let's show you the back side of that. This is one of the most fun parts of doing textures that are organic, that have a lot of emotion like water does. Can be really fun because it doesn't really ask the narrative be very clear that the figurative shape has to look like very much. The point of it though is to get enough material together in a way that it supports the overall splash. That's what I'm trying to do here, is to get enough of an arc that if I were to cut this like this, it would continue to be supported on this side. In order to do that, I need to add, blue support clay here and there. That it's part of this whole integrated kicking thing, but isn't too. So this is why it gets very fun and abstract, because I'm just throwing stuff on it this way. And from this side, I think I want to grow it. I've got a good plant now. It plants well on this side. I could probably, add a little more firmness here, just some light blue clay that's not very obtrusive. And then I'm going to want to add some extra splash on this side. Okay. And maybe cement it down into the croissant, the heel of the croissant a little bit. So this is a big kick splash, and I've created all this. I've created 3 different pieces of abstract things in addition to a 4th piece, which is just sort of the glue color. And then I'm going to want a few drops coming off the heel, perhaps. I don't know if this is going to work. I may or may not use it by the time I'm done. Maybe I want to do it this way. I'm going to need to. The biggest thing is I'm going to need to support this. So it's not like it can just sit there alone. It needs to have a way, once it's cut off from the main object, it needs to fly in midair and still land and not be lost when it lands, not be impossible. So here I've created a lot of foundational clay to keep it, to give it a good base, so when I cut away, it's got somewhere to go. It's not just alone. It's not sitting there with no place. Here I'm going to glue, interestingly enough, different splashes are going to go at different speeds to different directions. And so this is a way of creating some support on this one. Again, I have to imagine that when this part is cut away, there's actually no clay left right here. But these can hold themselves up this direction on their own without these as I'm cutting them out. Alright, so this gives you an idea of the kind of splash material, what do I want this first one to look like? Do I actually give it a smaller kick? So I'm creating is like 3 levels of waves like this that make a ripple that they all have to decline in the right way on the downward slope away from the cutting angle. They have to have an angle of slope that allows them always to be supported. I'll draw it one more time before I call it a segment. Like if this is the water and I want to cut it, I start cutting it away. Once it has no foundation to the main object over here, you need to, it needs to have enough support up its base, like this, that this flying piece, this cut off piece, can hold it. Another way of seeing it is like that. That's really the shape that a lot of these base supports are doing. They're there to keep this heavy enough and supported enough that this flying piece that's hanging out in midair, once it's being cut like this, can actually hold on and not just crumble and fall in on itself. So my plan is to do an awful lot of these for a lot of kicks as the swimmer's legs are kicking forward. Next I'm going to create a water base that the swimmer will be living in. And once I put the water base down, then I can put all the elements of the swimmer together, and then I can finally put all of these water kicks, these flying water elements, into that piece, and then it'll finally be done.